But you're noticing that the garden is overrun with weeds. There's trash, there's bugs, and there's disease on some of the plants, and the whole thing is overgrown, and there's gopher holes, and I say, oh, well, ignore that stuff. Really, don't look there. Look at the rose. Isn't it pretty? Yes. Right, it's a beautiful rose. And let's go over here. Yeah, I already told you that's beautiful. Yeah, but what about? No, just ignore that. I can explain that. That's not really the true garden. You know, the true garden are those little flowers that I'm showing you. You might think that I was being deliberately blind about the ugliness. Yes, you have some beautiful flowers in the garden, but the garden is ugly. The garden itself. And when we're talking about religion, we can all point to some beautiful flowers, some beautiful deeds, some beautiful things that religion has produced, or has been a vehicle for producing. But when you look on the whole picture, when you look at the whole garden, one flower does not a garden make. One good deed does not a religion make. Good deeds are not a religion. In fact, we're at university. Here's a simple math equation. I think you can all handle it. Religion plus good works equals good works. Now solve for religion. Good works is good works, right? The fact that you can do those very same good works without the religion makes the religion irrelevant, except maybe as a motivational thing. For example, during the month of December, we notice how vastly improved is the behavior of children during the middle weeks of the month of December. So we might say, well then of course a belief in Santa Claus can be motivating to make people believe, for the reward, the carrot and the stick. The fear of hell might motivate some people to want to do good works, to please, to glorify the Master, as the Bible says. But good works is not equal to religion. And I'm going to ask you during cross-examination here to define the word religion. Because I don't think you gave us a definition of the word religion.
Sounds like a trap.
Kara? No, it's not a trap. I just really want to know. Because if we're going to do debate us, then we should define terms. A 12-year-old girl here in Wisconsin named Madeline Kara Newman. Her nickname was Kara. Some of you know her story. She lived up by Wausau. She died a horrible, needless death from easily treatable diabetes on Easter morning, the day that Christians were celebrating, and her family's Christians, celebrating the resurrection of Jesus in the new life. Because her parents, who were Bible-believing parents, who thought themselves and still think themselves to be good people, decided to obey the Bible. In James chapter 5, verse 14, it says, "Is any sick among you? Let them bring them before the elders, anoint their head with oil, pray over them, and the prayer of faith will save," some translations say heal the sick, and the sick will rise up. So Kara's parents believed the Bible, a religious teaching from the Bible, and they did not take their daughter to the doctor. And in fact, during the trial, the father said, if I took my daughter to the doctor, that would be denying the power of God. That would be an insult to my religion. So she died this horrible, agonizing death, and one of the aunts, I guess, finally tried to call, but it was too late. All because of something that a religious teaching says. You all heard this last couple of weeks about Malala in Pakistan. Malala, what's her last name? Yousafzai, the 14-year-old. Well, she's 15 now, thanks to medicine. She survived. Her friend was also shot in the arm because God told these Taliban people that women are not supposed to be educated. That's a religious teaching. The harm to her, the bullet in her brain, was a direct result of religious teaching. It's one of the weeds in the garden that we're not supposed to look at. We're supposed to look at the warm, fuzzy, nice things that a lot of believers do, but let's ignore the bad things because that doesn't represent the whole garden, right? Those weeds are not, well, they're in the garden and they are part of the garden. And I could spend all night tonight, and I know many of you could do it as well, listing those weeds. The main fact, of course, that religious teachings are not true. The teachings of the Bible, in general, are not true teachings. There was not a talking snake. There was no sin and fall of the human race in the Garden of Eden. There wasn't a Garden of Eden or an Adam and Eve. None of those teachings are true. And if you teach children to believe things that are not true, that can be dangerous toward rational thinking and making decisions. Besides being untrue, religion, at its heart, is divisive. Religion creates an in-group and an out-group. Religion creates this unnecessary source of social conflict. We have enough reasons for social conflict in the world without religion. Religion introduces this unnecessary, bloody source of social conflict. And we've all seen it, and you could probably make a list as long as I can. Christopher Hitchens, in his book, God Is Not Great, just started with some cities that start with the letter B. Belfast. Look what happened in Belfast. Protestants versus Catholics. Beirut. Bombay. Belgrade. Look at how religious divisiveness, even within a religion. The 30 Years' War was started primarily over the confessional differences between Protestants and Catholics as the Protestants protested and broke off. 30 years of thousands and thousands of people killed over things like infant baptism or transubstantiation. In fact, Protestants against Protestants. John Calvin, who had his friend and co-reformer, the Protestant Michael Servetus, burned at the stake for the heretical view that Servetus had. John Calvin said, Jesus is the eternal Son of God. Servetus said, no, Calvin, that's not right. Jesus is the Son of the eternal God. Do you see the difference? That little difference in the placement of a preposition got him burned at the stake with green wood with his book tied to his body, and Calvin basically murdered Servetus because he dared to question his authority. You can see the sexism inherent within religion, with the Taliban saying that women should not be educated. We see it in the Bible. Women are to keep silent. Women are secondary. A woman slave is worth less than a male slave. We see that today with religion leading the fight against birth control. The Catholic Church, for example, taking this, what I would call, if there is such a thing as evil, it is the evil of not doing something right. I think the Pope is just too religious to really care about human needs. His doctrine is more important. For example, in the state of Illinois, the Catholic Charities, they had a program to help orphans, to adopt and for foster parenting for orphans. But then when the decision came down in Illinois that they could not discriminate against gay families, that the Catholic Charities were going to have to, they could not refuse to place children within families that were gay. What did the Catholic Church do? Did they really care about the kids? They shut down the whole program. Their dogma was more important than human needs. We see that with gay rights and gay marriage. We see that in so many countries over blasphemy laws. Ireland still has a blasphemy law on the books. People can be punished for committing blasphemy. We see a danger of religion with the whole idea that there are clergy. I used to be a reverend. I guess now you can call me ex-reverend Barker. This whole idea that there's this hierarchy, that there are these special people above and beyond everyone else. And look at the abuse that has happened with the clergy sexual abuse, for example, because religion teaches children, they even call the priest father. It introduces this dynamic that's phony, it's undeserved. And look at it, and it's not just in religion. The Boy Scouts, we've also heard, are now having problems with that. So religion is untrue, religion is divisive, religion causes harm, religion causes wars. Religion, in many cases, is directly opposed to scientific learning. The opposition to stem cell research, for example, the opposition to climate change, the opposition to teaching evolution in the schools, opposition to death with dignity, and you name it. Religion, those are the weeds in religion. If you add these up, if you add up all these weeds and look at that, and you say, well, is the garden friendly or not? I will join Eric in saying yes. There's some wonderful Unitarians in this world. There are some wonderful Christians. There are some wonderful people who are doing good deeds, but those are good for goodness sake, not because the religion says. What does religion actually mean? And when I do ask you that question, I would like a definition of what religion means separate from religious people. I think when we judge religions, suppose you're looking around the world and say, oh, look at that religion. That's a good one. That one's okay. That one's not so good. That one's What standards are you using? What criteria are you using to judge whether religion is good or not? It's something outside of the religion that you're using. It's not from within. What those values are, those values that Eric and I both praise that religious people do when they do charitable work and build hospitals and so on, those values are not religious values. Those are human values. They transcend the religions. They're human because we all can do them. If an atheist and a non-believer and a non-religious person can do those same things, then those are not religious values. Religions can borrow humanistic values. The Jews did not have the copyright on the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill, steal, or commit perjury. Those principles existed long before. Those were humanistic, human value principles that religions are borrowing. So we need to separate those things out from religion, and what are you left with when you separate the common human values that we all think are good, or conversely bad? You're left with religious teachings like what day of the week you should worship, what clothes you should wear, how you should treat your women, how many prayers you should say, in what direction. You're left with religious rituals, dogmatic things about how you can get to heaven. Most religions, including the Abrahamic religions like Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, they're not moral systems at all. They're not moral guides respecting the inherent dignity and worth of human beings. Human beings are worms. Most religions are salvation systems. So when you separate human values out from the religious traditions, what you're left with are religious teachings that are divisive and overall harmful to the world. Thank you.